coming. Step number 2 of recording the meeting. We've made some minor tweaks and hopefully some major differences in playback. Today we're lucky enough to have Lisa Hines from the Southeastern Ohio Fibershed. She's going to talk to us about the Fibershed philosophy and how we can get involved. Interestingly enough, at this year's Rhinebeck, New York Sheep and Wool, the biggest, arguably the biggest yarn festival in the United States, they started an initiative for next year for the 30,000 knitters who attend to use locally sourced fibers. So if that catches on, that should be a big boost. We also have Heba, who is from Pleasant Hill. She and her flock are represented here, and she'll speak with us as well. So without further ado, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Green light on your microphone.
Okay, it's still there. That's what I was wondering. I'm like, testing. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'll give a little bit about myself so you kind of know my background. I've been basically a lifelong textile type person. Grew up with sewists. Both my mother and grandmother were seamstresses or tailors. And another grandmother was a crocheter. Another grandmother was an embroiderer. And so a lot of these little skills just kind of came to me just because they're trying to get me out of the kitchen. And, here, have a crochet hook and some yarn and go play, And I didn't pick up knitting until, I think, high school a little bit, but more after I got married and started knitting socks, which was, for me, that was a lot of fun. I haven't knit a whole lot of socks recently, but after that, went through divorce, went through grad school, and during grad school, I needed stress relief because it was only a 1-year program, but it was compressed, and so it was a lot of work that I had to do. So I usually be up at 4 a.m, writing papers, doing research, and then by the end of the day, I didn't want to deal with that, and so I picked up felting, needle felting, and I started making little balls with whatever wool I happened to find around in my community. But they were little balls that were stuffed with catnip. So they were cat toys, and they were great. I tested them on my daughter's cats, and they loved them. So I figured, well, this is a good thing. I sold them on Etsy for a time, and then decided Etsy was taking too much of my money, so I got off of that. Getting into felting made me, yeah, sure.
Is there any way that the lid
Is that better? Okay, sorry about that. Yeah. Oh, no, yeah. Hopefully you can see everything. Some of these slides have a lot of text on them. It's more for information. I won't necessarily read it to you, but you could definitely, read it yourself. I'll check and make sure everybody's done looking at it. But with getting into felting, that's when I realized and discovered that there are certain fibers that are good for felting and certain fibers that are not so good for felting because they just won't felt. And that's usually those meat breeds. That those particular sheep have wool that's it's a little too slick. It doesn't have the barbs that like to readily connect with each other and make that felted product. But I did find out that those are really good for socks because they don't felt. They're very hard wearing. And so I just got into this kind of learning curve of, wow, all the different wools and what can I do with it. I ended up connecting with a farmer. This is back in, was it 2020? Right as the pandemic was roaring. And I got in touch with a friend of mine who got in touch. I think I put the word out on Facebook, and this friend of mine put me in contact with a friend of his that he went to high school with. She lives in Fleming, Ohio, which is about 15 miles west of Marietta. And she has this huge flock of sheep. He told me that she hadn't been able to get them sheared in at least a couple of years. I'm like, some people think that you don't shear sheep because that wool is supposed to help them regulate the temperature. It doesn't do that. They were raised for the wool, and the wool is intended to keep us warm. And with sheep, they can't stand that in the summertime. So some of these sheep were really suffering. They had, in fact, there was one we came across that had been at least 4 years. and she was just this walking mat. It was just it was awful. Um, and what made it worse is the shearer that she had bailed on her halfway through shearing 2 years before. So half the flock had been not sheared for 2 years, the other half much longer. And so my goal at that point, okay, we got to find this lady a shearer, because some of that wool, the stuff that I could see, at least on the ones that hadn't been sheared, or that had been sheared more recently, was nice. It was fine. It was like a merino. It was very oily, which you'll find that in fine wools, like the border Leicester is very, very oily. Merino is actually very, not oily, greasy, lanolin-y. And so that kind of got me put on this path of, well, we have this wool, we have a resource. But trying to access that resource means we have to have shearers that are consistent and won't bail on their client and won't charge an arm and a leg if at all possible. But they do charge a lot of money. If you have less than 100 sheep, they usually have an upcharge just to show up, and then it's per head after that. So, which, okay, yeah, gas, because we don't have a whole lot of shearers in Southern Ohio. Surprisingly enough, most of the shearers come from Northern Ohio. The guy that I'm using now, well, the first guy that I got to come, I put out on Instagram, anybody know a shearer that can come to Southern Ohio, because I can't get anybody to come shear these sheep. And somebody put me in touch with he's one of these traveling shearers that kind of has a little bit of notoriety online. If you get into shearing land, you'll understand there are some of these shearers are like rock stars in the wool world. This guy, I would say he's maybe not quite a rock star, but in my mind, he's amazing because he was able to handle these sheep very well. He came from Vermont. And what he and his partner did is, at that time, his partner would shear on the East Coast. He would shear the Ohio Valley and sometimes up into Wisconsin. And so he was shearing, I think he had about 15 to 20 clients in Southeast Ohio or Southern Ohio in general. And so he came for a few years, and then he and his partner decided to focus on New England. I had to find another shearer. Finally got in touch with one up in Akron, Ohio. And he and his brother have this shearing business that they just recently started. And the brother shears out west where they have all the merino flocks, thousands of sheep. Like he shears 15,000 a year, is my understanding, just by himself. And that's just that fraction of the sheep that they have out west right now. And so just fast forwarding to now, in my research of wool, the types of wool, where we can find it, I wanted to know how many people in Southern Ohio are raising wool. I had no idea, still don't, to be honest. And I looked up, I'm not sure what made me find it, but I found the Fibershed organization. It's fibershed.org. If you go to that website, that'll give you the main organization. They have this nice slick website. They have an affiliate network on it where you can find fiber sheds that are not Southeast Ohio. There's another fiber shed called Rust Belt Fiber Shed, if you've heard of that. Kaba was involved with that, which is, it's kind of a neat perspective. And Kaba, if you want to jump up and, and start talking about things, that would be great. And then we have Central Appalachia Fiber Shed, which is in West Virginia. They kind of overlap. They try to do a radius. I'll show you in a minute what I've done with ours. So I had to apply to the Fibershed, which I did right away in 2019 when I found them. I applied, and they're like, "Okay, we'll get going on this." And the pandemic hit. They lost their staff. Everybody just, that was it. The place closed up for 2 years. And when they reopened again in 2 years, I had to approach them again and say, "Hey, I bet my application's been sitting with you guys for a few years. Is it possible to get that moving?" And they immediately gave me affiliate status. And so that was in 2021. And what that does is, technically it would give us access to some funding through Fibershed for some of our activities, so some seed funding. I ended up not being able to do a whole lot with the Fibershed because it was just me. And it wasn't a priority for a lot of people to understand, like wool in general. Other fibers, which would include flax, cotton, hemp, any of those kinds of fibers that can go into textiles. There wasn't a whole lot of interest for it at this time, so I just put it on the back burner for a couple years. has anybody heard of Ohio Pawpaw Festival? Has anybody been? It's a lot of fun. I mean, try to do it sometime because it's a lot of fun. I always vend there. I take my yarn, tons of it. I sell a lot of yarn there. But my main purpose for being involved with Pawpaw Fest is their sustainability focus. And so I give talks like this to people at Pawpaw Fest every year. And sometimes I'll do a demonstration like I did last year. It was a spinning demonstration, which was well attended. People just love watching the wheel turn. It's kind of interesting. So it sat on the back burner. Through some of the networking I've been doing the last few years, finally got in touch with enough people. It looks like we have a board ready to go to get a nonprofit finally set for Southeast Ohio Fibershed. It's the way that, here, let me go back here real quick. History, fiber, and practice through a place-based identity. It sounds very academic, but it's essentially trying to focus people on what we're trying to do when we identify our fiber shed. It's not building a fiber shed. The fiber shed exists already. We just don't know the parts. Does anybody have an idea of what fiber shed, what it means? Like what it entails? You heard of a watershed? Same concept, but with fiber. So it's all of those inputs into a fiber system that make a fiber shed. And it's going to be different based on your location and the history of your community in fiber. In Southeast Ohio, we grow wool. So there's a lot of wool growers, and there used to be a lot of wool growers, even prior to industrialization. There's one farmer I work with. She has the farm that she's lived on has been her family farm for at least 7 generations that they can trace back. So basically, when they popped over from Marietta or popped over from West Virginia, yeah, they settled that particular ridge. And right now they're growing meat sheep, and their fleece is okay, but they tend to like to get into the manger and get lots of little bits of vegetable matter in that wool, and it's really hard to process when it's completely full of it. So someday we'll find a use for that. Okay, so here's where, excuse me, I use it's basically the economic development maps to identify where Southeast Ohio Fiber Shed is, and that is in anticipation of maybe getting some funding for a mill at some point down the road. Of course, you see Athens is in the orange, and the reason we got, I don't know if you can see that, it's first round, second round, third round. I had intended for people to fill out a form, which you can still access online, and let us know what kind of animals they have, or if they grow other things. Let's say they grow flax or something like that. And I wanted to focus on Athens and then kind of move out from there. Coshocton is technically part of this region, the Northeast region for development, but because I have a lot of people who have contacted me related to either their wool or they have questions or, hey, do you know anybody who can buy my wool? I've included them on our map. And there's definitely going to be some overlap. I think the Rust Belt Fiber Shed, which officially they're located up in, is it? Yeah, it's up in Cleveland, Cuyahoga. Yeah, so they're basically, I think, in kind of like that very western part, right? They have a pretty wide range, 250 miles, which does come down into here. But it's not, we're not like territorial. We can't be, because it really depends on what is in your actual place, your location, and what they grow, and historically what we've done in the past. And in Athens, that's wool. Up in they're focusing on flax up there, and I can show you some flax that I've got and stuff. But it's a really cool program that the Rust Belt has going on right now. Okay, so this just kind of describes it. It's a network of farmers, producers, processors, makers, dyers, and retailers. And essentially, it all starts. Let me see if that's the next graphic. No, this is where Fibershed came from. I'll talk about what I was going to talk about here in just a second. Rebecca Burgess is the one who coined that term, Fibershed. When she did this book, which is called, I don't have any copies of the book. I've already sold all my copies. But you can, on fibershed.org, you can get a copy of the book if you'd like to learn more about it. But she did a 1 year, 1 wardrobe project, which was the basis for the book, and described all of the things that she ran into that were roadblocks to making a local garment possible. how am I going to dye this? If I want to use plant dyes, how am I going to do that? Well, she ended up growing some indigo, or she found an indigo grower. I'm trying to remember. It's been a bit since I've read the book. So she created this book, created Fibershed, and in 2014 started this movement of kind of a slow textile movement among textile aficionados. So this is the graphic I was going to tell you about. So really we start with the soil. To have a strong Fibershed system, you have to have good soil. And that may seem a little weird and disconnected, but if you don't have healthy soil, your pastures are not healthy. So then your sheep aren't necessarily healthy, and you won't get good wool from those sheep. If you're trying to grow a plant fiber like flax, it's got to have pretty decent soil. Now, flax puts down a deep taproot for the most part. It's a fairly deep taproot, which helps break up the soil, which is really great because then when you harvest flax, you're yanking it up, which is helping to break up that soil. So you have to have good soil to begin with. And then, I guess, I don't know, anybody know what a carbon sink is? It's that sciencey environmental term. It basically means when you have animals, we'll get up there to the animals in a minute, but when you have animals or you have other things that are pressing down, stomping around on the grasses, on the weeds, if they're not eating it, they're stomping on it, and it gets broken up, and that carbon that's in that plant material gets worked into the soil, which over time regenerates the soil and makes it healthier year by year. And then it can maintain its health if you have that happening. Ruminants are really good for that because of the way their hooves are set up. So you got rangeland, farmland, sheep. Of course, these are the kinds of things: sheep, cotton. Bast fiber would be your plant fibers, your hemp and your hemp, nettle, flax, of course, and other I guess plant fibers. I've seen people recently grabbing milkweed stems. I'm not sure if the stems themselves make a good fiber, but the fluff does. Does it? Okay. So you take, because the stems are pretty big, so that's why I was wondering how that worked. You do it the same thing. Do you red it and? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah. If you can get it done a little on the faster side, right? Very cool. Okay. And that's the same process that you would use for flax and for hemp as well. Nettles too. I've known people who have actually made yarn from nettles, but it does make a coarser yarn, so it might be more suited for a rope, something like that, or a, huh? Oh, that's true. Yeah. Hats. Oh, okay. That's cool though. That is really cool.
Also used to make sails, all the sails, they use metal,
Mm-hmm.
because the flax, the metals propagate, all over.
Yeah. They're almost like a noxious weed.
That's when they went to flax, because they could actually grow it and control it.
Right. That's right. Yeah, I can imagine. Because it's a nice tough fiber. So for sale, that would be fantastic. Um, so we've got our farmland. We have our animals or plants. The next step of that is processing those fibers. Wool, we're all familiar with wool and wool mills. And if you keep up with things, you know that a lot of the mills, the older ones especially, are closing down. Zyligers is the more recent one, larger mill. And they're the ones that actually processed my yarn. That's a whole thing. We'll go through that process after I'm done here. But they closed down. So when these mills close down, we're losing a resource that smaller farmers can no longer access. Because what Zyligers did was they hooked up with a brand out of Wisconsin. And instead of doing custom work now for individual farmers and people like me who bring them a lot of wool. They're working with the brands who are trying to bring garments to market. We'll see how that works out. I mean, I wish them a lot of luck, but that's just from my experience with supply chain issues. It's going to be interesting to see how this all shakes out. It's going to be kind of a rough, probably 10 years is my guess. So we have a few mills in Ohio that will do roving. There's only, is it just the one up, not too far from here, the newer one. Oh my gosh, I lost the name of it. Yes, that one, thank you. Are they the only ones that do yarn now? Because I was down in Peebles and they only do roving. Okay, okay. Okay, so there are two of them. Okay, so there's two of them because then there's the one that used to be up in this area, and I can remember somebody who bought it, but they couldn't take the spinning equipment because it was in such bad shape. So I talked with the lady in Peebles. Why can't I think of the name of her? Yeah. Yay! Oh, she was so excited to have me there. She gave me a tour and everything. I was like, oh, this is so nice. And she did that roving that you see on my table over there. And she said that spinners, the machines themselves, create such a bottleneck because they're so touchy. They let you know if the yarn starts breaking, you have to go through and thread everything up again. And so that's why she doesn't do yarn. And I guess that's where I'm starting to understand where a lot of other mill owners, if they have the spinning machines, that's their bottleneck. So if you're looking for something local, something yarn, ideally you can spin it yourself because then you can buy the roving. Yeah, and Kiva's got some yarn, some roving over there. I've got mine. It's kind of, and this is not just in Ohio. This is not just Southeast Ohio having a problem with getting yarn made. It's all over the country. A lot of the mills are closing up. Some people are buying them, but they're keeping it small scale. My project was 200 pounds of wool. I wanted to see if I could get that done. And Zyligers was the only place that would do it. And now they're gone. So no, they can't because they're small. Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's the thing. It holds them up. It stresses the system, and so we need to have some of these larger mills again. Mhm. Really? Is she trying to sell the whole thing, and that's why it's not happening? Oh, I remember. Yeah, I remember reading about that. Yeah, yeah, which is interesting to watch. I like seeing the antique equipment, but she's got a group of Amish people that keep those things maintained and will actually iron work equipment for her and parts. Oh yeah, did she have? Yeah, yeah. I wonder who they had. Yeah. Oh, it's a lot of hard work. It really is. It's a lot of hard work. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. Yep. That's the trick. And people kind of wonder how much wool we actually produce in the area. Mid-States Co-op. You remember them, or does anybody know about them? They were a wool pool. Farmers could take their wool there, get it graded, get some money for it. It's pennies on the dollar. It wasn't a lot. So a lot of farmers probably stopped doing it. I'm not exactly sure why they shut down, other than the common thread I'm seeing is globalization. Well, yeah, that's because they stretch themselves too thin. When you try to reach a more global market and you're trying to bring in more and more stuff, you get to a point where, I'm sure there's some economic term for it, but you get to a point where it's too much and you can't focus on what you really need to focus on, which would be getting that more local stuff out to market. They had 1.5 million pounds of wool coming through that facility every year. Can you imagine this? Okay, so one sheep, generally average sheep, 3 pounds of wool on one sheep. 3 pounds average. Yeah, I mean, I had the sheep. Yeah, and I had a Cordell Border Leicester cross. I had two of them, and I was getting 5 to 8 pounds a sheep. The Jacob sheep, though, are running around 2 pounds average from the flock that I get them, at least the usable wool. So it just about killed me when I found out how much wool is now probably sitting in people's fields, composting, because where else are they going to put it? Or they're going to switch to cotton, and we won't have those wool sheep anymore. So it's one of these areas of wool farming that it just drives me nuts when I see an organization that could have been able to. I mean, it took them a year to shut everything down, right? So could have reached out to people like me who had more contacts, or at least could say, hey, if you want to get rid of your wool, if you need a shearer, you could try one of these guys up north who were very selective in who they actually went to, or use some of these guys that I know. And it was just the partnerships weren't being made because I was not allowed access to the people there. They refused to contact me. I'd contact them multiple times, and yeah. So that was kind of frustrating. And so that's where, for me, processing of the wool, processing of flax does not exist in this country unless you do it yourself. Yeah. Oh wow, yeah. 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 Yeah, it's just crazy when you think about it. I think Canada's got at least 3 flax mills or bast fiber mills. But yeah, you got to take it to Canada. I don't know if they would take our stuff, to be honest. I think that would be kind of hard. So you got to learn how to do it yourself. Cotton is a fiber that is grown around here. They are actually testing how well it can grow. The different varieties can grow in West Virginia. At Pawpaw Fest, there's a T-shirt you could buy that was completely made and dyed and sewn in Southeast Ohio. It was so excited. So there's a new organization in Nelsonville called the Hocking Hills Garment Center. Has anybody heard of that yet? Yay! She's, huh? No, they don't. Well, they right now they do brand contracts for the most part. So this was a brand contract with Pawpaw Fest, but they got their material from Virginia. So there was a cotton farmer in Virginia that was making organic cotton fabric, and they're like, hey, can you send us enough for 200 t-shirts? And so they did, and they sewed them up, and that was one of the ways they're teaching their sewists how to manufacture at scale and not just something for themselves. So they have special equipment and everything. At some point, she's going to allow Betsy Franjola is her name, and she will have tours at some point. I don't know if people want to drive all the way over to Nelsonville for a tour of her garment center when it's available. But that's something to maybe keep an eye on the Southeast Ohio Fibershed. If we have anything to announce, we would there. Or you follow her account. Was it HHGC, right? Garment Center, HHGC on Instagram. I don't think she's on Facebook, but on Instagram for sure. All right, so fiber. Now the other thing is the dye processing, which is an interesting note because Betsy will have a dye house in Nelsonville soon. I don't know when that move will be final, but they're actually moving from Hilliard, of all places. There's a dye center, a dye house in Hilliard that is going to be moving to Nelsonville and will help service Betsy's garment center. It's pretty cool. That was really exciting when I found out about that. And she's trying to move to plant dyes. That's a whole other ball game that I have only just started touching on, and it's a tough nut to crack as far as the learning to make consistently colored yarn. That's the hard part for me. My first experiment with goldenrod, I accidentally boiled it and ended up with a really pretty brown. So the next time I did some goldenrod, it was a very small amount because it had already started dying off by that point, and I threw it in there. It made a pretty yellow. It's a very light yellow, but it was really pretty. So I'm like, well, if this is something that we're able to replicate on a regular basis, then I can see plant dyes working. But I'm just not sure how DMC is doing it. So DMC in Europe, they supposedly have a plant dye based embroidery floss. I don't know how they're doing that at scale. I'm not sure, because I can't imagine the amount of plant material that has to be grown in order to. Well, they're using plant dyes, and this is in Europe, so they're going to be a little bit more strict on how things are grown. I don't know how they're doing it, but in order to make thousands, dye thousands of little skeins, I mean, that's still hundreds of pounds of material they have to dye, and it's blowing my mind. And this will be really interesting to see how this all progresses. Like I said, over the next 10 years, this is where we're going to see a lot of, hopefully, innovation in the processing. If we can get those spinners to not be finicky, maybe we can get more people doing yarn. And then that just adds another step to the process that we don't have to do by hand and can be a little bit more efficiently done by machine. Yeah. 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 They don't exist in the state of Ohio. I don't know how the recent law that just got changed, how that might affect our ability to grow hemp, because now they kind of, yeah, and they technically allow it up to less than 3 milligrams or micrograms of THC, as long as it's not something that's going to intoxicate everybody. We don't, they won't, they'll allow it to be grown. That's my understanding. The person that I know who is involved in the policy side of this, and she has been for quite a few years, wasn't able to make it. Otherwise, I would have had her here talking about this. But she's really pushing for Ohio to be able to grow hemp and be a center for hemp fiber in the country, actually. Yeah, yeah. I had a. Mm-hmm. Right. Well, hemp is processed the same way flax and other bast fibers are. When you harvest it, you have to let it sit either in the field or, like they said, in a bucket of water, and it has to rot. Basically, it has to start rotting because you have to let the bacteria. It's called retting, RETT, retting. Yeah, I'm trying to remember how it's spelled. So the inner core of those stalks needs to be eaten up by bacteria, and the water is what helps that bacteria do its thing. And so there's ways you can do that in the field or in a vat. Um, it's the same process for hemp. It's the same process for nettles. It's for all of these plant fibers, bast fibers. You have to have that, and larger scale facilities would have those available for larger scale amounts of fiber. It's just one of those things where it's like we haven't had a hemp processor, we haven't had a flax processor in this country in decades. So people have to do it themselves if they want to have those fibers, which is fine. That's perfectly fine. This is one of the things we're working on now, is this collaboration and trying to work with other organizations and farmers, and just trying to get everybody together. We had our first, well, it was technically our second not organizing meeting, but the second meetup for anybody interested in our Fibershed. We had that in June. Very successful group of people. It was almost 40 people showed up, and it was at the Cannabis Museum, which is in Canaanville, just kind of on the east side of Athens. And it was a really good time. Everybody got together. We talked about fiber. We had a lot of knitters. It was just a lot of fun, and it was very encouraging to me to see mostly young people who are really interested in seeing the Fibershed do what it needs to do, and help the community come together around fiber and just make those connections. Because one of the connections, let's see here on here, you have your designers and makers, and that would be Betsy's role with the Hocking Hills Garment Center. That's one. And then, of course, having garments to sell, which she was able to do that then with the Pawpaw Fest shirt. If we can start doing this and making our own garments, like everybody's making sweaters, or we're making our hats or socks or whatever. I know somebody who made pants. I knit pants. It's just kind of funny, but she's like, yes, these are fun. Okay, go for it. So collaboration, the ecological balance, we talked about that with making sure we have soil that's been worked by the animals. Inclusive community, and that's just everybody has the potential to be a knitter, to be a sewist, to be a spinner, and making sure that everybody feels comfortable doing that. It's not any one particular group of people that is into the farming or into the making. Everybody does it. And of course, we're looking regional, as I've explained before. This is something that Sasha put in here. I don't know if that makes sense on there, who's included. And we've already gone over this with the other things. So the wool inventory project, that's the one I've talked about with trying to get farmers to respond to a survey. It's not been very successful. And the USDA doesn't help because they stopped counting sheep farmers like 6 years ago now. It's been at least 6 years since they've updated their database, and so we don't really have current information post-pandemic. So in our goals for the Southeast Ohio Fibershed, we want to have these educational opportunities. Of course, have group events where we get everybody together because that social component is so important. And just other things like, I guess, the regular gatherings. Mapping is still high on my to-do list. I really want to see us identify like where the farmers like you are so that we can put people like you in touch with other farmers and you can get your wool local to you or regional to you. I guess, let's see, those are our main goals. And the educational pieces, we'd like to be able to do these. When I go back, if I go back and mention with the Fibershed having these seed grants, they lost the grant funding. Like a lot of nonprofits lost their grant funding this year. And so they could not do those micro grants. And I was like, the 1 year I'm going to apply, and I would have gotten it because if you haven't applied before, you're priority on the list. And we were going to fund some of these events over the next year with that money. So now everybody's scrambling. Of course, everybody's hitting the private foundations, and it's just like, oh. So the flax you see in this was growing in my front yard 2 years ago. Yeah, and it was like this. It was about this high. It bolted a little early. I waited too late to plant it. I should have done it. Huh? I've got the dried stuff. Yeah. I've already got it ready. It's ready for breaking. It's ready to be munched on, and yeah, yeah. You know what? If you come to Athens too, you can see some antique equipment. I wonder if yours is yours newer.
I have okay. An antique flax break and a hackle, but I also have some newer hackles.
Okay. Oh yeah, cool. That is cool. That is cool. I know well, there was a guy that was helping manage the Cannabis Museum, and he was really into all the equipment that they were collecting from, local farmers would come up with something and bring it over. Hey, you want this? And then they recognize it as a flax processing tool. So it's obvious to us that people, at least in Southeast Ohio, were growing flax and processing it, and just skipped a few generations. And we're starting to get back into it. I think that's the end of my actual presentation. Does anybody have any questions or yeah, sure. I'll come closer. Uh-huh. Okay. Oh boy.
Can you repeat
the question? Okay, so what she said is that she got a fleece that apparently baked in the sun at the post office, and was it delayed shipment? It took a while to get to you. Okay, they yeah. Well, you oh, it's finished yarn.
It was the Peace Fleece brand, where it was a combined.
Oh. Wow, I wonder what they got in it that probably wasn't cleaned properly. Have you tried unicorn? And sitting probably in a postal truck, 90-degree weather. Are you familiar with the unicorn products? The unicorn, yeah, unicorn power scour. So if you go to unicorn, what's it called? Unicornclean.com. You can order their environmentally happy products. Do you carry it? Awesome. Talk to her. Do you have the fiber? You have fiber wash in power scour, or what do you?
I have their, probably have the power, the new, no, the power scour without the new.
What is that called? Shoot, I don't have my phone on me. But yes, that. Yep, the Beyond Clean. Yeah. So there is a source. Mm-hmm. Okay. So that would be my recommendation. Uh-huh. Is the yarn dyed? Is the yarn dyed or is it undyed? It is dyed. Yeah, so it could be. I would recommend washing it. Or with what, though? With what? Oh yeah, that's yeah. I would try one of the unicorn products for sure. Yeah, before you throw it out. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. You can't forget the smell. Oh, I hear you. Yeah, me too. Yeah, that's if that doesn't work. Did you contact the company? It was a while ago. Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that would be my first thought is get a really good wool wash, and that's Unicorn Clean is really, I mean, I haven't found anything that it can't clean yet. It won't get vegetable matter out, but it will get all the other stuff out. Yep. Yeah. Sure.
I just was curious about working with, because I have sheep.
Uh-huh.
I have their wool made in the yard.
Yay. Cool.
And I buy wool from small farms.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes it's a disaster.
Yeah.
Thing I've learned, I mean, I'm getting my question. The
Mhm.
thing I've learned is that the people that are raising these sheep really don't care about the fiber because
No,
they
they
don't
don't.
get any money for it. Because,
Yeah.
there's that, I guess that's what you call it, bottleneck.
Yeah,
Nobody
it
buys
can
to
be.
buy their wool. And they
Yeah.
don't burn it. Everybody just burns it.
Well, yeah, and that's unfortunate. And with places like even the wool co-op would only take white, and it had to be fine. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
what
So
I
it's
found,
yeah.
I'm not spinning the sail.
Right.
No way.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
So I really want to teach people about different breeds of wool.
Yeah.
Because when I used to teach knitting classes before, I don't like the 100% wool. I'm like, look, just because, yes, merino is soft, but it's not really for everything.
No, it's not.
Every breed has a purpose. Don't get me on my soapbox.
Yep.
So that's why I
hear
started
you.
buying wool from people.
Yeah.
Raise sheep.
Yeah.
But what I found out is, I didn't know this until recently, show sheep. People that raise show sheep, their fleeces are terrible. Terrible.
Yeah. Now those are you talking meat breeds or are they for wool for showing?
Well, most of the ones that I've bought,
Mm-hmm.
like even like Lincoln, for example.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Their fleeces
Well,
were terrible.
Well, they're coarse. The Lincoln
No,
is
I know they're coarse.
yeah.
Like matted or like,
Because they don't care.
they care
Yeah.
more about the frame.
Yeah.
Of the sheep,
Yep.
the sheep.
Yeah.
And so now I'm trying to make sure when I'm looking for farms to buy sheep from,
Yeah.
is to buy it from people that aren't really showing their sheep. Like that's not their focus.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't care about the nice fiber that's really for that sheep.
Yeah, unless they're entering for the wool as well, which is what Maryland does with hers. But
when you have your, I guess, your map or your database
Uh-huh.
or whatever, do you guys ask these questions to these farmers? Like, do you show sheep or why do you raise it?
Yeah, there's some of those questions are in there, and I have to admit that I have to go in and revise the form. But there are those questions in there. It's like, do you shear your own sheep? Are you a regenerative farmer? Are you do you have problems getting a shearer and you can't shear your sheep? So are those fleeces staying on those sheep for years? And it's kind of, it becomes an education piece to the farmer. And for my project with my Jacob wool, I had to work with her. It took 2 years to finally get consistently nice fleece, and it was working with her to keep shearing them. and my business model is I pay for the shearing, I get the wool. So it's a significant amount of money. So she was getting $800 for me to take all of her wool, and it wasn't something she had to throw out anymore. She had over 100. I think it's usually around 120, 130, including lambs, and the lambs were everywhere. So so in my mind, that's removing that cost from the farmer. So it's helping the farmer. It is expensive. And yeah. But what's funny is I paid that 800. I got like 150 to 200 pounds of wool. I ended up with all this yarn, and I'm selling it at the price point that it should be. So it's that's our goal. Yes, if they serve Southeast Ohio, yes, they would be part of the Southeast Ohio Fibershed, even if they're located over here. But if they want to be on the map, sign up and we'll get it on the map. That is a piece that I'm hoping to get volunteers to help me with over the next year. Anywhere. It could be West Virginia, Kentucky. Anybody that wants to be on there can be on it, is my opinion. Now, other places do have maps. Other fiber sheds will have maps. Whether they're kept up or not, I know if you're familiar with the online group, the Woman Fiber Arts community on Facebook, and they have, wow, nice, I get to push that. It's so it's an online community for fiber artists, and it doesn't have to be wool. It can be anything in there. It can be felting, it can be knitting, and they have a resource. I'm trying to think of where it is in their thing, but there is a resource available where you can find mills at the very least, and some of those mills have their own fiber that they sell. So that's one way that you can find fiber. They also have a monthly sale that people like me or Kiva or even you, if you wanted to, you could get on there and you can sell your fiber. Yarn doesn't sell though, I discovered, so I don't do it very much. Yarn doesn't sell for some reason. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, well that definitely, yeah. Oh yeah.
Not every fiber festival,
Mm-hmm.
wool gathering, I think is predominantly knitters.
Yeah.
Some other fiber festivals are more spinners or just have to figure out.
Yeah, it's interesting. The Woollen Fiber Arts community, it's I don't remember how many thousands. There's like 15,000 members, maybe more now in that group, and they're all talking about all these different types of fiber arts. And if you sell it, you're not allowed to actually overtly sell it. You can say, hey, PM me or DM me or whatever, right? But they do have this regular sale that's available to anybody. You basically, the seller's up there saying, hey, here's my roving, buy my roving, this, and explain and talk about it. And they're very receptive to regional and local stuff, just not yarn. That's the best way I can describe it. That's true. Yeah. Yeah. Oh. Okay. Passing the torch.
All right. You're done. Or if you're done.
Yeah, I guess
Okay.
I'm done.
All right.
Okay.
All right. Sounds good. Hi, everybody. My name's Keba. I'm from Pleasant Hill, Ohio. I have been involved with sheep since the mid-'80s. I raised Corey Dales for 4-H, and my mom was a spinner and knitter, so I've kind of been around the fiber arts like Lisa and probably a lot of you for most of my life. Got out of it, went to college, grad school, all that good stuff. Came back to take over the family farm when my dad retired from farming. We have 185 acres of crops and livestock. Started off with cattle. And decided after a few years of taking care of the cattle with my husband, had some health issues. Cattle are really big and they're really strong. And I don't jump as fast as I used to. So we're like, yeah, no cattle. Got rid of the cattle and we decided, okay, we have all this acreage, we have all these pastures. What are we going to do? Hey, I like sheep. Let's get a couple sheep. Well, that kind of ballooned into about 30 at the high point. It's a very slippery rabbit hole. I actually got back into knitting because I did want to learn how to knit socks. Everybody was like, oh, you don't want to start with socks. I'm like, well, that's the only thing I want to knit. So let's go with that. So, you start with the yarn that you can get at well, previously Joann's and stuff like that. You decide that's not very good yarn. Let's find some local yarn shops, get some good yarn. Oh, hey, what are these braids? And then I got into spinning because, hey, I can make yarn, right? And Mom's like, yeah, you can make yarn. Let's get you a spinning wheel. We bought one at the wool gathering. I went home. I said, I have no idea how to use this thing. Hello, YouTube. So started to learn how to spin, and that's where the slippery slope came, and I ended up getting sheep. Started off with Corriedales because that's what I knew. That's what I was familiar with. Decided Corriedales weren't for me. Number one, they were talking about show sheep versus wool sheep. I got show sheep. They were barn sheep. They were not used to being on pasture, out in the open and everything. We had some very weird weather the year that I got them. The grass died. The grass came back, talking about the soil being so important. The grass came back very lush and green. So it was like spring grass instead of summer grass. Well, they all got sick and died on me. Yeah, it was one of those things. You go out, I was checking them in the evening. They were fine. Next morning, I go out, there's a sheep dead on the ground. I'm like, wow, this really stinks. I don't like this. Plus, I discovered once I got a Corriedale ram, that dude could almost look me in the eyes. I'm like, they're way too tall for me because I was going to be me taking care of them, me shearing them. And I'm like, no, not going to do this. Called my friend down the road in Arcanum. Hey, Melissa, you have Shetlands. Shetlands are about this tall. They're very small. Can I come look at them? I went home with 3 sheep in the back of my car to using a ram. And that's kind of how I got into this mess that I'm currently in with sheep. So what am I going to do with all this wool? Started getting it processed into roving. I was spinning it. What you were saying about not being able to sell hand spun yarn at a very nice price point where it's worth the effort, not going to happen. So started getting my yarn processed down at America's Natural Fiber Works in Somerville, which is south of Eaton. Carrie does a fantastic job of getting my Shetland into some nice roving and nice yarn. So that's my kind of background about getting back into sheep after a long hiatus. I discovered Fibershed. A friend of mine in Dayton said, hey, there's this lady, Rebecca, she's out in California. She started this thing about getting local fiber producers together and connecting everybody. So I got the book. Namita, my friend in Dayton, had started a Dayton Fibershed because there is Rust Belt north of us, which I'm now kind of loosely affiliated with personally. But we wanted to get something local to Dayton. Had a hard time getting people to join on. Lisa's nodding her head. Yeah, especially some of the farmers. Well, what am I supposed to do with the wool? And there was kind of a little bit of a resistance to that. I ended up joining the board of Rust Belt Fibershed, and I was doing that for a few years. It was fantastic. We had designers from Pittsburgh, people in Ohio. It was just amazing watching all these people work together. But with local things, it is the supply chain issue. I currently have 15-ish sheep, and they only produce so much wool. So when you're doing something local, what they give you is what you have. With my yarn, I do lots. Everything has a lot number. And once that lot's done, that's it. It is literally one of a kind stuff. Next year's fleece may not look the same as this year's fleece because the sheep getting older. My Shetlands literally will change color fleece. I have a black girl Pippa. She is solid. She was solid black. She didn't have a spot of white on her. I sheared her one year. She had 2 little white spots on her booty. I'm like, okay, well, that's really interesting. Let's see how this progresses. The next year, her entire booty was white. I'm like, well, okay, I guess I don't have a solid black sheep anymore. That's okay. And you just kind of roll with it. So everything is so unique and so one of a kind that it's really hard if you're doing garment manufacturing or anything larger scale to get enough fiber to do something with it. So Fibershed's really working with that, trying to get everybody together, maybe pooling the fibers that you have to make a larger batch so that garment manufacturers want to work with it. I also was involved in a design incubator in Dayton. It's called DeFi, Dayton Emerging Fashion Industry. My friend Caressa runs that, and she had an incubator for designers. I never considered myself a designer. And she's like, girl, you knit things. You wear them. You're a designer. Oh, I guess I am. So I guess we're all designers in here. Congratulations. Add that to your resume. You are now a fashion designer. So I worked with that, and she got me into the whole business thing and how to effectively do business as a designer, which was an amazing experience. But I got an insight into the fashion world that maybe a lot of people don't necessarily get, because we were going behind the scenes. What do these fashion houses want from their fibers? Well, they want consistency, they want repeatability, things like that. And I was like, whoa, I got to step back from that, because I can't repeat anything. I can barely repeat a pattern, let alone wool from year to year. So that's kind of where I am right now. And a lot of the things you were saying, Lisa, about getting the Fibershed started, and it's a lot of getting awareness out there, the education part of it, which is like way towards the top, is a lot of us in here maybe didn't know about Fibershed before today. So now, oh, okay, maybe you didn't know about me being, unless you went to Wool Gathering and saw me there. I didn't know you were right down the road from me. You're in Tip City, right? There's a couple people in Troy. I didn't know you guys were there. So it's really cool with Fibershed getting to know everybody and putting everybody together to kind of make this whole fiber thing work, whether it's sheep or alpaca or llama or whatever it might be, the bast fibers and all of that. So that's kind of my spiel. I've got some yarn. I've got some roving back there. It's all natural colors. Shetlands come in 11 natural colors, from mostly white to pure black. Everything is natural back there. I don't use any dyes, but if you are a dyer, Shetland does take dye very well. It felts very well. I'm seeing some heads nodding out there that you've worked with Shetland before. I felted things that I didn't really want to felt because Shetland felt so well. Be careful when you're washing it. That's all I have to say. And so, yeah, just I love the natural fibers. I love the variety that I get with Shetlands. Most of my yarn is a flock mix, usually of 2 fleeces. So I have Pippa's fleece back there, but it's mixed in with Perrin, her son, who is all black for right now. We're going to see what happens with him in a few years. So it kind of gives that nice heathered look. Again, the yarn that's back there, the roving that's back there, one of a kind. That's the only of that there will be. Next year, it's Perrins and Pippas are going to look a little bit different, and so it wouldn't match up. Be a nice contrast maybe, but it's not going to be exactly that way. So that's the cool thing I love about the Shetlands, is that every year is different. I did hand shear my sheep for a while, but with working full time and caregiving for a couple family members, my friend over in New Madison, he comes over and takes care of it. Yeah, what you were saying about the cost, I had 15 to 18 sheep, 20-ish or so at the high point when he was has been shearing them, and it's $10 a head. So I have to factor that into all of the costs and everything like that. So as the business side of things, would I love to just like play with the wool all the time? Absolutely, and I kind of do. So there is that. But on the business side of things, as a Fibershed person, as a small farmer, that business is kind of boring. I'm not a fan of the business side of things. I'd rather talk to you guys about the wool and go back and squish things and do all of that. So, do you have any questions for me about that? Yes. Sure do. They're back on the table there. Yep, I just recently closed down my website because I'll put in you put in a couple plugs for things for WAFA. I do have there is a yarn shop that is opening up November 1st in Greenville. It's called the Yarn Remedy right downtown. A couple friends of mine, and I am putting all of my yarn that I have there for sale. They're doing local yarn. They have some brands I've actually never heard of before. So they're doing some pretty nice some nice yarns and some different fiber things there. I don't know if they have it. I think they do have some, I think it's recycled denim yarn, which looked really cool. I'm not sure what you would use it for. I've never worked with it, but I'm going to try some of that out. I'm probably going to end up spending more money there than I make from selling my yarn, but hey, that's okay. That's how the game works. So yeah, if you're in the Greenville area after November 1st, check out the Yarn Remedy and you can find my stuff there. So yeah, I don't have a website, but I'm always available. And if you are interested in getting into sheep or stuff like that, I'm always available to chat about sheep. Love doing that. Yes. Yes, it is a brick and mortar. 45, 50 minutes. Cool.
So if we could figure out how to contact, we'll give them a little time to get their feet on the ground.
Sure. Okay.
But maybe after the first of the year, we could contact them and we'll go out and like interview the owners and talk about. So we like to promote our local shops in the newsletter. So
They may have already been
That's awesome.
contacted.
okay,
I have
good.
somebody who contacts.
Because we like to patronize.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right.
What's that?
Oh,
Do I blanket them? No. Nope.
I'm considering getting after I'm done with like 25-pound bag of full. I've got some Valley Weavers by a Shetland. It'll go easier to manage. Maybe if it's in an actual a single unit.
Right. Right. Well, mine, they are sheared. If Chuck shears them, they are in a single piece. If I shear them, I use the hand shear, so there's no single piece happening there. I just do little bits and pieces and get them sheared. But I do have to pull mine apart because I have a drum car or just blanked. No, not a picker. Yeah, it is drum. Yeah, not a carder. Tumbler, thank you. Good grief, that just left my brain. I have a tumbler and it only holds about 2 pounds at a time, so I do have to split my fleeces up. I mean, if you get a fleece from me, you're getting the whole fleece. It's just not the whole one piece of it. Yep.
I think Lisa wanted to give a little bit more.
Yeah,
Sure.
just for people. Oh, here, sorry. Thank you. So what I'll just point out here, this is for you to come and touch and pet. It's examples of like Southeast Ohio stuff. This is a felted Jacob fleece. Does anybody know what a Jacob sheep looks like? Yeah, it's that they got, this flock has 4 horns. So, so all their males, all the rams have 4 horns. Some of the females will just have 2. But they make this. It's a really, generally a really nice one. But this one was felted. So these 2 are also, no, that goes here. So this is some roving I had made. This is actually from a Cordale Border Leicester cross. It's actually very nice. It is a long wool. It's 6 inches long, generally speaking, the staple length on it. And you mentioned them changing. So I own these 2 sheep. When I first got them, I got them as little lamblets, and they were so cute. One was black, one was white. They were twins from the same mom. That black one turned silver within 2 years. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I talked to the lady who actually sold the mom to the friend that I bought him from. And she said, oh yeah, which one was it? And she's one of these people that remembers everything. She just, nothing leaves her brain. And she's like, oh yeah, the other ram for that. He's silver now. And that line does that apparently. And I'm just like, wow, okay. So we have this, it's a really nice fiber. I'm not sure what we didn't get a chance to do anything with those this year. That the guy that took my sheep when I sold my farm, I'm not sure if he sheared them himself or what's happened there, because he kept putting off my shearers this year. So I don't know if he sheared or not, but yeah, so there's that. Pet a llama. So if you want to pet a llama, this is a llama, and it's from a place in southern Ohio near, actually across the river from Marshall University. Now, and this is some cotton. From this processed cotton is from North Carolina. There's a guy there that makes it or grows it and has it made and sells it. It's kind of cool. And then this is just, it's ginned, but it's not. Do they comb it? I don't even know what cotton processing is yet. I probably should figure that out. Yeah. Well, what's interesting with cotton, and I keep telling any farmers that I see, I'm like, you might want to start planting some cotton plants. See how they do. Because as we're warming up, oh, it can. It can. Mm-hmm. I've got a red foliated variety that has the bolls. They're like as big as duck eggs, and they haven't popped yet. And popping means, okay, that fiber is already fully formed. And but I'm hoping. Yeah, oh, that's true. There's that. Okay, so there's cotton. This was my first experiment with having wool made. The place that spun it was the Blue Mountain in Pennsylvania, and I don't know if they've sold their mill. I know it went up for sale, like I think last year. But they processed this for me, and it was a local wool. These were local wool. This actually came from some fleeces I randomly bought off of Facebook. It turned out to be really nice. It's got fin sheep. If you've ever heard of that, if you're a spinner, oh, that's so nice. It's so nice. But anyway, I had that one made from them. These are samples of some of the fleeces that I've come across. It's not all of them over the years. And this is Angora. So if anybody has never had a chance to pet Angora, that's rabbit. Okay. Yeah, you're welcome.